So in this video, I want to talk about something very powerful. This is something that will actually blow your mind. And I'll speak from a black sheep's perspective. Something that I've seen and I was able to understand, even on a very spiritual level. If you are the black sheep of the family, first of all, you are the chosen one. Congratulations. Most probably you have awakened or you're about to wake up and your life is about to change. When you start to understand narcissistic abuse, even in the family, for example, you're now going to start looking back in the previous years, and you're going to start tracing this narcissism to have infected even the previous generations before you. So what I'm talking about, you have a narcissist in the family, maybe your dad. You're going to start tracing back this narcissism probably to your grandmother or your grandfather, and probably another great-great-grandfather, something like so. You're going to start tracing this narcissism. It has actually been happening for generations of years. When you're talking about generations of years, we can go on and on and on, thousands and hundreds of thousands of years ago. So it has just been a recurring pattern, a recurring cycle. And unfortunately, back in the days, our ancestors didn't have the proper way to deal with this. So they didn't even know what it was. They could have understood it in their own way, probably in a different spiritual way, but maybe not the same way that we do now, because we have the available resources, the technology is there, the means are there for us to understand what is this, even at least on a psychological level. But the fact that you've been having a repeated pattern over and over again that has been running through generations, it starts to show you that this whole thing is actually ancient warfare. That's why you start to understand that narcissistic abuse and narcissism is ancient warfare. The entities that operate behind the narcissist, the goal is to get and to take as much energy as they can. So the goal is to harvest. I'll use the best one. Like, the goal is to harvest energy. When we're dealing with spiritual entities, they do not operate on the physical plane. So we are dealing with something that is operating on a spiritual plane. So energy is already on the spiritual plane. So these entities need that energy to carry on and to thrive. That's how they thrive. We also have on this planet earth angels, and we have the demons. So we have the light and we have the darkness. And the two energies operate, the earth angels operate with light and the demons operate with darkness. So it's the reason as to why when you're involved with this kind of narcissists, you're going to realize that you have actually encountered the devil in human form. So many of you guys are very familiar with that phrase, the devil in human form, because now you are able to see what they call evil in front of you. For a lot of you guys who have dealt with these narcissists, you can already testify that you have already encountered and even dealt with the devil in human form. The kind of abuse you have seen, you cannot explain it to anyone that will even ever understand you. It has got to be somebody on a certain level of understanding that they will understand what is narcissism. Because even the people that understand narcissism, even on a psychological level, they still can't understand it on a spiritual level. So it's a very few people that actually see this spiritual dimension when it comes to narcissism. This has been ancient warfare. So it has been a recurring battle that has been happening for thousands of generations ago. The only thing is that what usually used to change was it's just the characters that would change. So for example, like that's why I've told you that when you're tracing back in families, there was your grandfathers who battled with narcissism, there was the great-grandfathers and the great-grandmothers, so it was a recurring cycle. It was a repeated pattern, it was a repeated cycle, it's just the different characters, okay? For you to understand that this thing is happening on the spiritual plane, when you have been entangled with a narcissist, for example, and you have let that narcissist go, you will most usually, especially for the ones that have awakened, because the ones who have not really awakened, they cannot really see this, what's happening behind the veil. But for the ones that have awakened, when you have actually released or discarded that narcissist, you are still going to meet that demon in a different body. So for the most of us, like the black sheep, the ones who can actually look behind the veil, when we see these demons, we recognize these demons, okay? And what is even the most scary part, the people, the vessels operating with these entities are not even aware of it. So a person may just show up in your presence for some reason, by some chance, by some coincidence, and you will think, okay, so this is another coincidence. But actually, on a very spiritual level, those individuals, they navigate their way into your life. And if a person who has dealt with these kind of entities before, back in the days, you will now recognize that it is the same demon in a different body. So you will start to understand things on a very spiritual level. And it is one of the tools, I believe, even in my own case, that has really helped me on this journey of healing after narcissistic abuse. I would just believe that if I kept on back in the days believing all this, trying to go along with the flow with these personality disorders and everything, I would get lost. I would get lost, and I would never really understand what was going on, So there are some things that you cannot explain spiritually, because when it comes to narcissism, it has been like hidden under the sheets. So basically, nobody talks about narcissism in church. A lot of you guys, you have these church leaders and whatever, pastors, nobody tells you about narcissism. Because you know why? Because sometimes they are talking about themselves. There's two reasons. Number one, the pastors themselves, the leaders, could be the narcissists actually. Or they just don't have the information and knowledge about narcissism. So they don't have anything to tell you. So when you're dealing with families, for example, as a black sheep, I've told you, are the first one to awaken, you're going to realize that you even have narcissistic parents that do not even know who they are. They are not even awakened. They don't even know who they are. They have always been knocking around over the years, and they never knew that they were narcissists. They may have been aware of their destructive patterns and toxic behavior and everything, but they were actually not even aware that they were narcissists. So that's why the whole thing gets deep. You know what I mean? Because you see, narcissism, I've told you, is a part of this matrix. The things the narcissist does to traumatize people, especially archangels and beautiful people and good souls, the things they do to traumatize people, they are meant to bring them on extreme low frequency. So they need people on a very low vibration. So it's why you see a lot of times, you guys have heard about these governments, very dictatorship governments. You've heard about narcissistic churches, pastors and everything. You've heard about even narcissists who are leaders in the church. You've heard about narcissistic parents. You've heard about some teachers. Maybe some of your teachers are narcissists. You've heard about narcissists in every pocket of society. So they are somewhere there doing their job, which is to keep people on a low frequency, because the narcissists need everybody on the low frequency. They need everybody in fear state. So they need to put you in a very fearful state whereby you cannot even speak your truth, you cannot say nothing, you cannot move left, you cannot move right. So they want everybody in a fear state. That is their mission. That is the mission of these entities, okay? When everybody is in fear state, you know, they create these kind of scenarios where people will start to get fearful about everything and get in that fear state. When you get in a fear state, these entities, because these entities are very advanced, okay? A person will now start to surrender to a lot of the BS that is happening around them. When you're in fear state, you're like, oh, if I do this, my dad will send me out of the house. If I do that, my partner will finish the relationship, or, you know, or those kind of stuff. You know, so many different pockets of society. Even a lot of guys are involved with narcissistic leaders in church, and they don't want to talk about it because, oh, you know, when you talk about them, everybody's going to, you know, it's going to become a problem for you, and you're going to create a lot of chaos. They are operating behind the scenes in every pocket of society. They put people in a fear state, in a very fearful frequency, which is an extremely low frequency, because the narcissist knows that the empath, they vibrate on the love frequency, and the narcissist knows that they don't have that love frequency. It's an extremely high frequency. It's a God frequency. Love is a God frequency, you know. So they don't want you to be a God. They don't want you to operate on a God frequency. They want you to operate on an extremely low frequency, whereby now you are under control. They can be able to control and manipulate you, and manipulate your thoughts, and manipulate your behaviors and the things that you do. You know what I mean? But anything which is close to getting higher in your love frequency, they want you to be hateful. They want you to be, you know, vengeful. They want you to be scared. They want you to be, you know, you have got to be on a very low frequency. Then they are able to harvest your energy. Because when you're fearful, now they can harvest your energy. So you guys have heard about people talking about somebody sold their soul, this one sold their soul, somebody sold their soul. A lot of people, they sell their soul in so many different kinds of ways, you know. People talk about somebody sold their soul, but they never really tell you what happened to the soul that they sold. You know, they sold their soul. So what happened next to their soul? That's when now they surrendered and were taken over by these entities. So you guys who are in the US, you hear about these Hollywood stars and everything. You talk about, oh, this one sold their soul and this musician sold their soul. So that's what happens. They are after your soul. The moment you surrender, they take over. They take charge of your life, and they take charge of yourself, or of your soul, and they take control of your life. So is why always you hear that people saying that narcissist is almost, I don't know if there's any successful chance of a recovered narcissist. It's completely impossible for a narcissist to recover, because their soul is gone many years ago. You know, I've seen this with the narcissistic parent. I've seen it with the greater narcissist. Their soul is gone a long time ago. So these are robots, okay? The people that you deal with normally in this dimension, especially on this 3D plane, they are the robots. Something took over their soul, and they were taken over by different entities, and now they're doing the devil's work. What does the devil do? Kill, steal, and destroy. So they now start loitering around. They infiltrate every area of society: church, schools, relationships, friendships, marriages, every pocket of society, jobs, and they start destroying people. The war we're talking about the warfare of narcissism, is ancient, you know. So a lot of times you don't hear these things in schools, you don't hear anybody teaching you this stuff. And even if they teach you, they may even sometimes teach you these things to try to understand them on the 3D level, you know, because a lot of these spiritual subjects and spiritual matters, they're not usually discussed in the open. Okay, spiritual stuff is not discussed because a lot of times many people don't have this information. Even your own teachers and pastors do not have this information. So they do not discuss these things in public. A lot of our children are not aware about narcissism because sometimes these narcissists are sometimes operating within with the schools, communities, and everything. Our parents do not talk about narcissism because sometimes they are the narcissists themselves, or sometimes they're not even aware of what is narcissism itself. So this spiritual thing has been hidden behind. That's why in my videos in the early days, I used to talk about things like behind the veil. So in those early days, I was usually taking you what is behind the veil, the things that you've never heard about and you don't hear a lot in school. It's continuing. It's like the battle what we're talking about of narcissism. It is a continuation of the battles that have always been happening even before this generation. So they have just been recurring and recurring, just going on and on and on and on. But there is people who know, okay? So as much as we're talking about this narcissism and everything, and you hear me talking about this spiritual narcissism and everything, you have got to understand there is people who know what I'm talking about. They are aware of it. They have been aware of it actually from day one, since the beginning. They were aware of it. They're still aware of it, but they don't talk about it. The reason why they don't talk about it is because they are the problem themselves. So a few people know about this, but there is some of us now that are waking up and are awakening to this truth, okay? So the reason why, as to why sometimes you see these channels, they mate, okay, but they don't usually grab a lot of attention or immediate attention, is because there is things that you're explaining that are on a completely different frequency. And that frequency is not something that resonates with so many people on this planet, especially on this 3D plane, okay? The ones who are ready, like I've always said in my videos, they usually find their way, or the universe finds a way of forwarding these videos to their screens, and they get that kind of enlightenment. But I also understand that there is so many people that are not aware of this. They are not ready for this kind of enlightenment, because this enlightenment, it can actually switch on your consciousness. It is very easy for this kind of information to wake you up. You may be a person who has been sleeping for ages, but the moment you get into contact with this information, it could just wake you up instantly, like that. So it is really deep. It is very deep, and ancient warfare is real, okay? So when you're waking up from abuse, narcissistic abuse, just try to make yourself understand. I know it's going to be very difficult. You are going to gaslight yourself. You're going to start beating up yourself. You're going to start blaming yourself for things. Just understand that you are indeed waking up, okay? And there's no problem with you. You have just been intensively fighting a very spiritual, deep spiritual battle that you couldn't explain to anyone. Nobody used to believe you. You couldn't run to anyone because nobody knew what you was fighting. You was the only person on the battle line, at the battlefield, at the front line. So the things that you saw, you could not explain these things to other people because they were not at the front line with you. You were the one at the front line, because these demons have told you they are actually directly in confrontation with archangels. So this is a battle between archangels and demons, but these demons need vessels to operate, okay? before they get a vessel, they have to corrupt that vessel first of all. They could corrupt that vessel through community, through church programs, through school, through family conditioning and things like that. They will corrupt the soul until they take over that body, because they need the soul. It is the soul they need. Now, when they have corrupted that soul, they are able to infiltrate that body and use that body onwards throughout their lives until the end. Those are the people you see, they call them the narcissists, okay? And of course, these things happens over time. It takes a lot of time to evolve. The narcissists, they can evolve from a lesser one, mid-range, greater, and all that. So they keep on evolving until they become the ultra ones, which are the high-grade narcissists, okay? But on the other side, there are also earth angels, the ones that are vibrating out of the love frequency, the ones who are here to spread love. So the battle that is going on between these two individuals, is a spiritual battle whereby you have got people operating with light and there's people operating with the darkness. So the two people are constantly at war. That is why wherever you go as a chosen one, you are having unexplainable attacks. Somebody throws an egg on your windscreen, somebody punctures your tire, somebody pushes your trolley, and hits your car in the parking yard. Your wife attacks you. You are under attack. The reason why you are under attack is because you are an earth angel. There is entities that want people to be on a low vibration, and there is also beings who are here to spread love and light, to help people become their greatest version. So that is where now the spiritual battle starts. And I've told you that this battle, it has been happening for so many generations of years, many, many thousands of years ago. It has just been recurring. Some people die, they come back, so it's a different body, but the same playground. Maybe even sometimes a different scenario, but it's the same battle. So the spiritual warfare is ancient, is what I'm trying to drive to in this video. It is an ancient warfare, okay? Scientists and medics understand it as a mental disorder because that is what you can see. But there's a spiritual attachment to this narcissism, which is actually behind the veil. All my videos have been explaining so many things, and I've been talking about what is actually happening behind the veil, because there are some old souls on this planet. They are very familiar with this battle. Why are they familiar with this battle? Because they have already played a part in this battle in the previous lives. So they have these past lives whereby they have been actually fighting the same thing in the past lives. They have returned and they are continuing with this battle. So the moment of their awakening, they remember that actually this is the battle they've always been fighting. So they awaken to this truth that they're not here for the first time. Those are people, they call them the old souls, okay? So it's the reason as to why I've told you guys, when you have been entangled with the narcissist, that narcissist did not come into your life by chance, by coincidence. The narcissist came into your life by design. Because on a spiritual level, they understand, they figure out, they know this light. So they find a way to gravitate towards you and start attacking you to kill that light. They are actually afraid of that light. It does not matter how powerful that narcissist is, how big they are. It does not matter how much money they have. The only thing they are afraid about is the light. They don't like the light. You guys have been watching these Dracula movies back in the days, those horror movies. Whenever somebody opened the curtains, they were burning because the light was too hard for them. They could not operate in the light, So they used to know how to operate in darkness, those demons. But you open the light and you switch on all the lights, they're going to start burning. Especially they're afraid of the sun. So the empaths, that is how powerful is your light. It is as bright as the sun. Is why when you're going around these individuals, they are attacking you for no reason. Whenever you show up around them, sometimes with the women, you try to get into a relationship, they are going to reject you instantly. Because there's a light that is vibrating off of you, which is as bright as the sun. And sometimes that light is very disturbing for them. It is the reason why When you get entangled with the narcissist, the very first thing they are going to kill is your light. They are going to kill your light and bring you down to a low frequency because your light is shining too bright for them. They need to first of all bring you down on their frequency where they are going to be able to instantly initiate and start this abuse. So that is how these demons operate. It is a war between archangels and demons. It is spiritual warfare, but at the same time, it is ancient warfare. Okay, so let us know what you think about this video in the comment section below. You guys know that I do love and appreciate your support. Book a session, donate or support my channel if you want to. Everything you need, you will find it in the description below. And until then, I will catch you guys in my next one. There's the most signing out. Much love and blessings. Peace.